Hi, everybody. I'm Brian Duffy, and welcome to another edition of 19 Newsmakers. Today on the show, we're very excited about this. We've got Isaac Robb, who's the Chief Urban Program Officer from the Western Reserve Land Conservancy. Isaac, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. The first question, I'm sure a lot of people who have found our show are probably asking, well, they may have heard of it, maybe not. They're going to say, what is the Western Reserve Land Conservancy? What is it that you guys do?
Yeah, so our primary focus is on land conservation, and that can take many forms depending on where you live. We work throughout Northeast Ohio. We're actually expanding statewide. A land trust or a land conservancy really is about private conservation. So if you have a family property that you want to make sure stays as a natural area or working farm, we can help you make that a reality by putting things called conservation easements on a property that make sure that this land is protected in perpetuity.
Yeah, we talked about this before I asked you that question, and you said, well, I could basically fill up the whole show with what is and we're going to do that as we work our way through the show. So you kind of told us what a land conservancy is. A lot of people probably have heard about a land bank, specifically with Cuyahoga County. We know they have a land bank and they do a lot of interesting work. What's the difference between the two of them?
Yeah, so it really comes down to real estate being something that is owned by someone or an entity, right? So the Cuyahoga Land Bank and the land banks across Ohio were created in a response to the foreclosure crisis. Obviously, Cuyahoga County was decimated, as well as a lot of our rural counties throughout Ohio. So a county land bank is able to take vacant, that's critical, tax delinquent properties through an expedited foreclosure process to get it back under public control and then dispose of it for a public benefit. Now the land trust and the land conservancy where I work, we're really about keeping that land in private ownership. We will hold that conservation easement, but the private owner maintains it. Again, if the property transfers, that easement goes along with the property. So it all is very legalistic and can be a little confusing, but they are two different tools to help provide community benefits with land in our community.
And so you work with the Cuyahoga. What's the end game in all that? What ultimately are you trying to accomplish when you're working with the land bank, say in an urban area? We're talking about Cuyahoga County. So and let's get even more specific. We're talking about the city of Cleveland, where we have a lot of dilapidated homes.
Right.
And I know that this kind of ebbs and flows, maybe what you're doing with the Cuyahoga County Land Bank. But what exactly is it that you're trying to do in these urban areas with these older homes?
Yeah, and I think it's helpful. I talked maybe on a more abstract level to focus on something specific. So we've been working for over a decade on what we call the 5 Streets, which is in the Buckeye Woodhill neighborhood of Cleveland. Perfect example. That project was initiated by Pastor Fields and his wife Iris to really help improve the conditions on these 5 streets near their church off of Woodhill, next to the transit station there. And so it's working with partners like the Cuyahoga Land Bank to identify those vacant abandoned properties. It's working with our partners at the City of Cleveland to do proactive code enforcement, and then partners like Habitat for Humanity to bring on new housing and rehab existing structures. And then we come in and we do all the greening work. So we can plant trees with residents, we can create neighborhood pathways, or working with Pastor Fields on creating a community garden or open space for the folks that live there.
Why is this important in an urban area, especially like the Buckeye neighborhood?
Yes, I think we've seen the real estate market evolve, especially over the last 20 years, where it went from a lot of owner occupants to now, again, post-foreclosure crisis, a lot of private equity, a lot of out-of-state investors coming in that might not have the same interest in alignment with the local residents. So this is a way, again, of really bringing that local control, working parcel by parcel, street by street, to improve those environmental conditions for the residents that have lived there a really long time. Yeah,
and you've been doing this work with Cuyahoga County for quite a long time. You've had success with this too, haven't you?
We have, and the County Land Bank, has been wildly successful locally. There are now over 70 county land banks throughout the state of Ohio, out of 88 counties in total. They have their own land bank association, and so we're really proud to play a part in that creation of that Ohio Land Bank Association and network.
And this is only a small part of what you're doing in the urban area, and also throughout Northeast Ohio. It's called the Western Reserve Land Conservancy, and you're all over the place now, all the way from Sandusky, I know, to the state line, south down to Holmes County. So you're doing a lot of good work. We're going to talk about all of that as we move through this show of 19 Newsmakers. Isaac Robb is our guest. He is the Chief Urban Program Officer, that's a lot there, from the Western Reserve Land Conservancy. We'll be right back.
True crime lives here. Watch Dark Side of the Land on 19 News Plus.
Hi, everybody. Brian Duffy back with you on this edition of Newsmakers. We are joined this week by Isaac Robb, the Chief Urban Program Officer with the Western Reserve Land Conservancy. And Isaac, we were talking before we went to our first break about the work you guys are doing with the Cuyahoga County Land Bank and housing specifically in the city of Cleveland. There's a housing crisis. We were talking during the break. It's interesting that you guys are involved in this in some respects on the periphery, but in another respect, you're right in the middle of it as you worked your way through a process of looking at these homes, trying to determine what should stay up, what should be demolished. Tell me about that process.
Yeah, so actually when I started as an intern in 2015, I had the opportunity to walk the entirety of the city of Cleveland through our comprehensive property inventory process. So with a team of about 16, we took photos and answered a series of questions on over 167,000 parcels in the city of Cleveland alone.
Yeah.
We've subsequently done work with our inner-ring suburb partners, Euclid, South Euclid, Cleveland Heights, things of that nature. We were fortunate enough to update that property inventory in 2022 in partnership with the Bibb administration and the housing director, Sally Martin O'Toole, to go out and compare to see how things have changed over time. So we like to say that data doesn't make us smarter, but it does allow us to make more informed decisions, whether that's where we should be planting trees, which houses are vacant and abandoned, and then which houses might need a little bit of assistance from a rehab standpoint to go from something that is currently stable, but we don't want that to fall into disrepair in the next 3 to 5 years.
Why is that so important?
It's so important on a lot of reasons, right? These neighborhoods are complex systems. It's not just a house on a parcel. It's not just the tree in the tree lawn.
Because it's a neighborhood.
It's a neighborhood. All these things complement each other. So if I have a 3-year-old daughter, and I can tell you it's not fun to push a stroller or ride a scooter if the sidewalk is missing or raised. So we need to look about these things holistically. You don't want to have a vacant and abandoned house on the path that someone is walking to school every day or going to the bus stop. So how do we create complete neighborhoods, complete and green streets that really allow everyone to thrive in our communities?
Yeah, we need housing. We need affordable housing, but the housing needs to be safe, and it can't cost. You've got to make the decision on how much is it going to cost for us to fix this, how much will the city have to figure out, or whoever owns it, to get the lead paint out of it if that's an issue, and then, or is it just better to knock this down and make a field? That's great work. Everybody appreciates it. It's also difficult work. And part of it, I guess attached to that would be the reforestation program in the city. Nobody wants to drive through a neighborhood where, it's houses that are falling down, there's no trees, there's no grass, there's garbage. That's why this program is important. Tell me about it and what exactly it is.
Yeah, and hopefully you and your viewers know that Cleveland used to be called the Forest City, and we really want to bring that back. So through our Reforest Our City program, as well as in partnership with the Cleveland Tree Coalition, we're trying to regain a 30% tree canopy by 2040. So imagine if you're looking down on the city of Cleveland and a drop of rain falls, that it has at least a 30% likelihood of hitting a leaf or a tree branch. That's kind of how we can conceptualize that. So we do a variety of things. We plant hundreds of trees a year. We do free tree adoptions for every resident in the city of Cleveland. We do free tree steward training for residents to learn how to properly plant and maintain trees. And right now, in the peak of summer, we have 2 tree crews working full-time, watering over 1,300 trees every week in our city neighborhoods. 15 gallons of water every week per tree for the entire summer.
Wow. Great, that's great. And by the way, as far as Forest City goes, I'm old enough to remember that there used to be like a hardware store or something in Cleveland called Forest City. So yeah, I'm very well aware of it and knew the background of that. Let's talk about some of the projects that you also are working on. Garden of 11 Angels on Imperial Avenue. As soon as people hear Imperial Avenue, they understand. Most people do. Tell us about that. I've been there. I've seen it. It's you get a little tingle on the back of your neck every time you go.
Yeah, and I think it's really important when we look at some of our larger projects or more impactful place-based projects, it's really important for us to be invited in, and nothing is more indicative of that than our Garden of 11 Angels projects. My late great mentor and colleague Jackie Gillen was able to get us introduced to the family of the victims of Imperial Avenue and the faith-based community that worked there. And again, all of these things that we've been talking about, it's multi-layers of partnership. So that's a perfect example where we acquired 7 parcels in total from the City of Cleveland and the Cuyahoga Land Bank to go through a community-led design process with the families, with our local community development corporation partner, Burton Bell Carr there, to and Land Studio to design something in memory of these women. And it's a very difficult situation where you have that level of violence against women. How do you memorialize the trauma and their memory while also combining that with the community level trauma of that occurring on that street? And so the Garden of 11 Angels project is a beautiful testament to that, and is something that we continue to steward. We've planted numerous trees there. We have an annual spruce up on Mother's Day weekend where we all come back together, and it's just a really beautiful space to remember not only those women, but again, as a sign of hope that, you know, out of something horrific something beautiful can come from it.
Yeah, and I know you're doing multiple projects like that throughout the city of Cleveland. We'll talk about some of those when we come back. Isaac Robb, Chief Urban Program Officer from the Western Reserve Land Conservancy, is our guest. We'll be right back.
First Alert traffic and weather together all morning long. Stream 19 News this morning on 19 News Plus.
Welcome back to 19 Newsmakers. I'm Brian Duffy. We are with Isaac Robb, the Chief Urban Program Officer from Western Reserve Land Conservancy. Isaac, we've spent a lot of time talking about what's going on kind of in the urban area here in Northeast Ohio, but you guys do so much more throughout the Western Reserve in Northeast Ohio. Huge acreage of projects. Tell us about those. What are some of the big things you're doing in this area, and just how massive in scope some of these projects are?
Yeah, I would be remiss. Obviously, that is our traditional conservation work and the vast majority of the work we do on an annual basis. So just to give a little perspective, some of the projects in our urban area might be a quarter of an acre, maybe one of our biggest projects was 2.5 acres up to maybe 25 acres. Our traditional conservation work, we're dealing with hundreds of acres in our region, thousands at times. So for example, last year alone, we worked on 45 individual projects, over 3,000 acres, and raised over $25 million to make that happen. And so to give everyone who might not be in the land business a little context, 1 acre of land is about the equivalent of an American football field. So 3,000 acres is an incredible amount of work, and our team, our stewardship team, our field directors, our project managers are working year-round to make those projects happen with a lot of partners.
Yeah, and you need a lot of partners. You have a lot of partners. You've got Metro Health, Case, in Cleveland Clinic. You're in the second year of a 4-year grant. Is that an urban project, or is that more of a rural project that you're working on?
Yeah, so we're going back a little bit more on the urban projects there. That partnership with Metro Health, Case Western Reserve University, and Cleveland Clinic really is trying to look at the health impacts of what these greening interventions and again the housing and environmental conditions of these neighborhoods, what that looks like from a human health standpoint, right? Which is a really innovative partnership we're really excited about. We're able to use de-identified health information to understand, you know, what the impacts of planting a tree or greening a vacant lot might look like, or creating a new park in one of these neighborhoods. So it's really exciting. And like you said, we're in year 2 of 4 years. We're primarily working in the neighborhoods of Huff, St. Clair Superior, Glenville, and Buckeye Woodhill, which I mentioned earlier.
Right, and when we were talking, and I took you a little bit out of order there, but when you were talking about what you're doing, countywide and in the whole Western Reserve area, you mentioned something about $25 million. You've raised $25 million. That brings me to funding. Where are you? Where does all the money come from? You're doing so much. How do you guys pay for everything that you're doing? Yeah,
we have to get really creative here. We are very fortunate in the state of Ohio, though, and I hope everyone, if you don't know about it, it's this great program called the Clean Ohio Conservation Program, which is run through the Ohio Public Works Commission. So that's a state funding source, and we really use that a lot to acquire those properties in our service area. And we partner with a lot of local townships, municipalities, and also park districts. Anywhere we work, if we have a strong park district, that really helps us add a lot of value. So whether that's Cleveland Metro Parks, Lake Metro Parks, or any Metro Parks throughout our service area, they're a strong partner. So that state funding source, we work with a lot of federal, and then local philanthropy is really important to us as well.
Yeah, and this Bezos grant you were telling us about.
A not so local funding source.
Right, yes. But so, important.
Absolutely, and that was a partnership with the city of Cleveland to really focus in on improving publicly owned vacant properties within the city of Cleveland.
Right.
So that recently announced $10 million grant will really allow us to scale up the work that we've been doing. And we really see this as kind of has a flywheel effect. The more good work that we do, the more we are able to do, the more it attracts funding and really allows us to impact more people in more neighborhoods.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground, and we probably could do 3 or 4 of these shows.
I'll come back anytime.
But I want to give you a chance on this show. Is there something that we missed, something that you're really proud of that the Western Reserve Land Conservancy is doing right now, something you want people to know? And maybe it doesn't even have to be a specific project, just something about the Conservancy that's really important that you want to get across to people.
Yeah, thank you. I think I have 2 answers to this question. The first is, I think what makes us unique is really Northeast Ohio and the state of Ohio, we have a lot of diverse land uses, right? We have a lot of really prime agricultural soils in the northwestern corner of our state. We have a lot of beautiful scenic rivers and natural areas. And then we have a lot of legacy cities. And we're one of the few land trusts nationally that work in all 3. So one thing I'd like to have everyone take away here is we believe strongly that no matter where you live, if you're a farmer where my grandparents were raised in Huron and Seneca County, if you live in the Chagrin River Valley, or if you live in the central city in Huff or St. Clair, we all have relationships with land and how we interact with it on a daily basis. So we try to meet people where they're at, understand that relationship, and come in with the skills that we have. So the conversations that we have in the city might look very different in other parts, but that's where I think we try and be invited in and work through these partnerships wherever we are to make our state and our region a healthier, more vibrant place for all of us.
Right. Well, the land's important wherever you are. I think you articulated that very, very well. Well, Isaac, thank you so much for being here. We will have you back soon because I think it's very important, and I think people in Northeast Ohio appreciate the work they're doing. Check out the website for the Western Reserve Land Conservancy. Very easy to find, and it will give you a list of everything that they're doing and more importantly, why they're doing it. And it's great work, and we appreciate you being here.
And if anyone needs a street tree or a tree and you live in the city of Cleveland, call us. We would be more than happy to work with you.
Boy, great. Okay.
Thank you, Brent.
Thanks, Isaac. Appreciate it. That's going to do it for another edition of 19 Newsmakers. I'm Brian Duffy. Thank you so much for watching. You can find this show. It streams live 6:30 on every Monday night. Then you can find it on our website. It also lives on our website as a podcast. Plenty of chances for you to hear these great ideas. Thanks.